Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Niagara on this March the 5th, as we joyously prepare to engage in fellowship and holy community. Our opening words come to us from the first chapter of John, from the first book of John, chapter 4. Let us love one another because love is from God. Whoever does not love God does not know God, for God is love. No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God lives in us. God is love, and those who abide in love abide in God, and God abides in them. There is no fear in love, for perfect love casts out fear. Those who say, I love God, and hate their brothers and sisters are liars. For those who do not love a brother or sister whom they have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen. No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God lives in us. If you'll now turn in your order of service to our chalice lighting words, and please repeat with me. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. If you turn in your hymnal now for the first hymn of the morning to hymn number 313, 313, and arise as you are willing and able. Oh, what a piece of work are we, how marvelously wrought, the quick contrivance of the hand, the wonder of our thought, the wonder of our thought. Why need to look for miracles outside of nature's law? Humanity we wonder at with every breath we draw. With every breath we draw. But give us room to move and grow. But give our spirit play. And we can make a world of light out of the common clay. Out of the common clay. Thank you. Please be seated. I don't know how often we've done that before.
We've never done it before.
We've never done it before. I think you did a superb job for a first time.
I laughed my head off all the way through it.
Well, it could be, it's like, oh, what a piece of work we are. Yes, well, I've often said that this is one of the most interesting hymnals I've ever had the privilege of getting to know. And it surprises me more and more every day. But it's not the title of the word bearing within that truly make a difference in our lives. And so we thank you. If you'll turn in your hymnal now to responsive reading, number 638. Oops. And I will begin with the first paragraph, if you'll follow me in tandem, if you please. If I speak in the tongues of mortals and angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or clanging cymbal. If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body to be burned, but do not have love, I gain nothing. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things, love never ends. Prophecies will come to an end, tongues will cease, knowledge will come to an end. We know in part, we prophesy in part, but when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. Now we see in a mirror, in a riddle. Now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, and the greatest of these is love. And of course, that's from 1 Corinthians chapter 13. We now come to that portion of our service that we refer to as that of honoring our joys and sorrows. As always, we light a candle of remembrance, a candle of compassion, a candle of true, unconditional love for all those who suffer in this world. Of course, we remember those, as always, who are suffering in Ukraine. We remember all those in the world who are suffering through the disasters, whether they be natural or man-made. And this is our candle of remembrance, our candle of compassion. And we also light a candle today, at least if I may be allowed to. I light a candle of great joy. I remember that when I came to you last month, I mentioned to you that one of the things that was of deep concern to me was our dog, Buck, who was 12 and a half years old, was suffering from cancer. And the veterinarian who worked with Buck said she had no way of knowing if she'd gotten all of it, but she felt she'd gotten all the cancer. There were 3 different tumors she removed. And we just found out that, yes, it was cancer, but that it was not very malignant, meaning that that it looks like she got everything. And I am very apt not to use the word miracle, but even though Buck is 12 and a half, he's romping around the house looking like he's 6. He's got more vim and vigor than I do, which isn't saying much if you think about it. But anyway, Buck is, as they say, well on the mend, and my wife and I are deeply grateful and very joyful. And so I wanted to share that joy with you today, because I know that I can't see out into the sea of faces today anybody who's not an animal lover. So we thank you. If there's anyone else who would come up, please, who would like to offer a joy or a sorrow, now is the opportunity for you to do so.
There. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Great to see you.
Good to be seen.
We owe a lot of credit to Patty, who really has helped us in of course, we all know what, she does a really nice job with the music, and that's a beautiful thing. But less conspicuous is the effort she makes to keep things going with the building here. And Paul and she and I worked together last week, and she mostly with the contractors helped us this week in terms of keeping the driveway nice. And that doesn't seem like much, but that stuff out there is very nasty to handle. That snow and ice, very heavy. And to have that manageable means so much in terms of just being able to get in here on Sunday. And her contribution dealing with people has just been fantastic, and the work she's done. And so I'm going to light a candle of joy because she's done terrifically well for us, and we all appreciate it.
Well, thank you. But the fun part was this. Last Saturday, I go walking through the parking lot. There's this big red truck with the big blades, and I'm like, ah! Please help! Please help!
Ask and you shall receive.
I have a concern. I called Betsy on March 1st, which was her birthday, and I sang her happy birthday. And I, kind of asked about why they didn't come to church. I said, I know the ice was bad, and she said it wasn't that. She is depressed.
Oh.
She said she just didn't feel up to coming in. And so I'm worried about her because we know Betsy's always positive, upbeat. And I think being in the wheelchair and the pain and everything she's going through is really hard for her. And I'd like us to try and think of ways that we can make her life better.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mine's a combination of a joy and sorrow, but my joy is I just repeat. I'm not going to repeat what Bill said, but I'm going to light a candle for you too, Patty, for everything that you've been doing. Thank you so much. Now the sorrow I have, and this one's animal related. My sister's dog, we'll call him a Chiefy dog or a Chiefy pup. Anyways, he passed away from cancer this past week here. Unfortunately, she had to put him down, and that was a really hard thing for my sister to do. And it was harder on me than I thought too, because I don't live with them, and the dog's not my dog. But I was pretty kind of bummed out later this week when I found out.
Grief is grief.
Yeah, he's half German Shepherd, half Rottweiler, I think.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah, he was
A
good,
big doggy.
good-sized dog, and so I'm gonna miss him.
Of course.
Oh, I do have a joy. I do. And I can give it back to Bill. I've had 2 joyful days this week. Because Bill was here.
You're on.
And we had to work on trying to fix the sound. I'm assuming it's working now out in Zoom land. But let's light a candle for Bill and all of his hard work.
Thank you. We now come to that portion of our service where It is an opportunity for you to, there's so many people who share of their time and their talent, and yet we are always consistently cognizant that we must also share of our treasure in order to keep this building functional, to keep the doors open, and to keep our message of unconditional love and justice ringing out into not only this Niagara Falls community, but indeed the community of the world. So if you'll take an opportunity now to share your generosity with us, we are, as always, deeply grateful. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Thank you. As you probably have already surmised, based on the, excuse me, opening words and indeed the responsive reading, I'm going to focus a little bit on a subject that I think is, on one hand, extremely abused and overused, and I believe it's so because we misunderstand it, or perhaps we become numb to it because we've lost our faith and our ability to strive to attain it. But it is this subject of love. And it was born out of an interesting experience I had recently, and that's why the title of the sermon is An Existential Outcry. You know, when we read the newspaper, my God, to show you how old I am, I still read a newspaper. When we look at the computer screen, or perhaps we still watch the television or hear the radio, and we see so much of an existential outcry. There are so many issues that seem to have reached, some call it a tipping point, some call it a crisis point. And I was watching the TV, and as I am, you know, truly a, quote, ministerial type, I spend a lot of time thinking about God. I spend a lot of time about what God is, what God may not be to me, and how I relate that to other people. And so I was watching the television, and I was watching, of course, the Haiti, forgive me, not the Syrian-Turkish earthquake. And I call it the Syrian-Turkish earthquake because it is, you know, of course, right on that border. And it's still unbelievably difficult for me to wrap my head around the notion that and it's going to hit more than 47,000 of our brothers and sisters were taken from us, for lack of a better turn of phrase, in a matter of an instant or a few moments. And the reason I started thinking about God in all of this was because there was a newscast where they had found a child and they were digging that child out of this rubble. And it was very difficult to watch, but at the same time, very exciting because, of course, the good news is the child was whole, the child was alive, and it looks like the child will make a full recovery. And these rescue workers, in the moment of the discovery of this child, were singing, I shouldn't say singing, but they were making an affirmation, which is very, very common in Islamic theology and philosophy. And they were simply saying, God is great. God is great. God is great. And I thought to myself, from a humanistic point of view, well, that's fantastic. I think it's wonderful that they're full of joy, but I don't think that 47,000 people, plus their family members and relatives and friends and so forth, are probably singing the same refrain. And it got me thinking about the disasters that befall this planet on a regular basis. Just to name a few. And it's not to become maudlin or depressed, it's to give us some perspective. 6 million people died in the Holocaust. The Pol Pot Cambodian genocide, 2 million people. As I mentioned, 47,000 in this last earthquake, 300,000 in the last earthquake in Haiti, 225,000 people over a dozen different countries in 2004 in a tsunami. And more often than not, I ask myself, just as it's put forth in the beyond the title of the sermon, where is God in all of this? And I ask that question on a tremendous number of occasions. We have this notion that we are, as human beings, special, unique, and different, and somehow deserve some type of special treatment. Well, from a humanist point of view, I'm here to tell you that your original ancestor, your absolute original ancestor, occurred 13.7 billion years ago and was called the Big Bang. First cause. That's all we know about God. That's really all we know about God. And yet, because we are, as some philosophers have stated, I'll use this very, very cautiously in saying this, spiritual beings, mental beings, who have on some level are experiencing a human experience in these 3 dimensions of our lives. We have a tendency of creating God or gods in our own self-image. And so God is very anthropomorphic. It's a fancy word. It means human-like tendencies. So God can be jealous, by the way, is a misinterpretation of that word, but regardless, many people interpret it as God is jealous the way we in human terms are jealous of one another in situations and circumstances. God can be angry, God can be loving, and yet here in John and in other scriptural references, we are constantly reminded that God is love. Constantly reminded that God is love. And that if you study the teachings of a Jesus or a Buddha or Lao Tzu or any of the great spiritual adepts, spiritually evolved human beings, the lesson seems the same. That if we choose to love ourselves and ultimately we choose to love our neighbors as ourselves, we can create a world that is, and I'll use this phrase very pointedly, a world worth living in. Because all too many theologies and philosophies point us to an afterlife. And I'm not here, I've already done that this year when I gave a sermon, when I talked a little bit about my belief in an afterlife. My purpose isn't to go one way or the other with that, but the purpose of most people believing in an afterlife is it makes, for lack of any other turn of phrase, an excellent escape hatch from this world. This world is referred to as a vale of tears. It's referred to as a place of suffering. I love biblical language. It is a place where there is much wailing and gnashing of teeth, which I'm sure some dentists would be happy with. But regardless of that, because we are these human beings, because we are these mental beings or these spiritual beings, we have that 13.7 billion year Big Bang at the core of our very being. We have that energy, we have that essence, we have that first cause. We are animate, we are self-directed, etc. Because of all that, but because we are experiencing life in our evolution and our growth and our outgoing, we have this tendency to expect anything that is spiritual, anything to be beyond that. We still experience it in very human ways. Very human ways. And like I mentioned, God is jealous and can be angry and so forth. And so I asked myself the question, with all of the horrible things happening, you hear rabbis. I once heard a rabbi say, where was God when 6 million people were being destroyed in the Holocaust? And the rabbi said, God was with his people. And you hear that, when, whether it's 47,000 or 2 million or whatever, you hear that. And it's because we want to believe that there is a power greater than we are that is with us and in some manner cares and guides and uplifts. None of that is negative. None of that is bad. It has sustained us through the 7 major great religions of the world, even though there are aspects of those 7 that are, shall we say, less than positive. And we walk that tightrope. We walk that dichotomy between following the best possible alternatives and solutions to problems and perhaps choosing the least. For example, the Inquisition, the Salem witch hunts. In other words, religion can be used. It can be used as a healing balm, or it can be weaponized to use as through great destruction. But I go back. We in Unitarian Universalism, because of our principles, because of what we teach is important, we do focus and stress a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We all search for meaning and significance. That's so important to who and what we are as mental, physical beings. We search also, which seems to be in very short supply in our world today, the goal of world community where peace, liberty, and justice exists for who? For all. Where peace, justice, and liberty exists for all. The problem with so many different religious traditions is we're no different than the political parties. Oh, you're such and such. Why, yes, I am. Well, welcome, sir, come in. Oh, you're not one of us? Well, rot in hell eternally, thank you very much. You get the idea. And the most important thing as a Unitarian Universalist is our respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. We are not here to take dominion over this planet. We are here to be its stewards, and we are responsible for ourselves, for each other, and was mentioned in a couple of comments we made just about our brethren in the animal kingdom, and to be responsible to and for those who are voiceless, those who have not the intellectual evolution that we have had, and yet we look at a world and we can only come out with an existential outcry. Why? Why is all of this the way it is? And I started looking at my experience in church, and I found that church has really changed dramatically. I know that when I was a little boy and I went to church, it was a place where people in their belief viewed themselves as taking a time to be separate and apart from on that one particular day, where they could seek to develop and evolve their character by listening to the teachings of a particular religious leader or spiritual leader, let's say even within the context of that congregation. It was an opportunity to look deep within and become a giver, to become more of a giver than a taker. And I learned that some of the most important lessons I learned didn't come from the priest or the rabbi or the minister, but my interaction with the fellow congregants. That as a small child, I was treated with compassion. I felt a sense of being cared for. I felt a sense of being safe. I sensed I was even, if I dare say it, loved. And when I began to see that those people who were giving me those gifts, they were giving me those gifts as a result of listening and striving to live on a moment-to-moment, day-to-day basis, that which they were taught in this place called church, it was there that I began to really feel a sense of belonging. But church is very different today. We come, we sit, we listen, some of us shrug. Oh, he's talking about that again. or she's so nice, but I've got to go on this. I've just got to look on my phone for just a minute to see who just tried to text me. And then you get the idea. We seem to somehow have compartmentalized and individualized ourselves more so now than at any time in at least my generation. And so I come to you now asking you to look back in your experience. Now, some of you have not had good experiences in church, by the way. The minister was mean and surly. Okay? Not unlike myself, of course. Of course. I get a bit of disagreement there. Or perhaps they were taught doctrines that I call what used to be called the doctrines of devils. Things that are the antithesis of the teachings of a Jesus, the antithesis of a teaching of Moses and Abraham, the antithesis of the teachings of the Buddha. And those antitheses are anything that does not speak to the issue of loving self without condition, and ultimately then turning and loving others without condition. But regardless of that, I had that experience, and as a result of that, I continue to look for that. I continue to look for that. I come to a new church, someplace I've never preached before, and I'll look for the people that look the most surly, the most unhappy, the most depressed, whatever you want to call it, okay? And I will make it my business to stick my beak into their business. Meaning, I want to know, how are you today? Don't tell me I'm fine. Oh, I'm okay. Tell me how you really are. Tell me how you really are. That's what we're here for. To bounce off of each other, to not just embrace each other in a superficial way, but in an authentic, in a genuine way. Tell me how you really are. That's called vulnerability. And in this day and age, we don't want to be vulnerable. We want to be tough. And we've got the cell phones to prove it. And we are tough. We know our cell phone better than we do our own children or our own grandchildren. And we know our cell phone better than we know our neighbor next door, or even worse, the person sitting next to you in the pew on Sunday. But we must, in my opinion, I'll say it in terms of myself. You have to do what you have to be you, I have to be me. I must be vulnerable. I must be willing to want to hear what's really going on. Can I fix you? Nope. Do I want to fix you? Nope. Can't do it. There's only one person I can fix, that's me. So, but I can listen. I can truly hear your pain. I can truly hear your joy. I can truly hear whomever you really want to share honestly and authentically with me. And if you do that, I am your witness to your narrative. And that is powerful. That is healing. So the vulnerability to other people is key. Now, I'm going to give you a trick here that I think is also important, because we talk about vulnerability to self. How many of us really know who and what we really are? We intellectualize it. I am a spiritual being who has chosen to have a human experience. Nice intellectualism. Sounds great, looks good, so to speak. Do I really know who I am? What I'm really afraid of? What I really look forward to? What my hopes really are? What my dreams really are? Let me help you find that. In the morning, or even sometime during the course of a busy day, take about 15 minutes, go into your restroom or wherever your bedroom, wherever there's a nice big mirror, and take a look in that mirror and have a conversation with yourself. Now, back in the day, my mother would have said that if you talk to yourself, you're crazy. And that was a big deal. Oh, you're talking to yourself, you must be crazy. No, now it's called self-talk. Now it's called self-coaching, and it works. But you look, they say the eyes are the windows of the soul. You look in that mirror, and in my case, I was saying, good morning, Ron. How are you really doing today? And if you give yourself that 10 minutes, maybe even that 15 minutes, of finding out how you really, really feel and why, you may find some answers that you're maybe not comfortable with. You've heard that expression, the truth will set you free. It's absolutely true. But first, it can make you pretty miserable. Am I depressed? Why am I depressed? What can I do to change that? What can I do to do that? Which brings me to my second aspect of this. I talk about being compassionate to others. What about being compassionate to you? Each and every one of you is a unique individualization of the universe. You are the universe individualized. There has never been, is now, nor will ever be another one like you. You are not one in a million. You are one in hundreds of perhaps billions or even trillions. It is important that you cut yourself a break. It's important that you realize that if you want love, you must be loving. If you want compassion, you must be compassionate. But the first person that needs to have this happen for themselves is you. Picture you're on an airplane. Suddenly the plane drops 200 feet, the masks fall down. What do they tell you the first thing you need to do? Put the mask around your face first, and then take care of your children or whomever is with you. Self-compassion is vital. You are okay, perfect, and complete in the spiritual sense, just the way you are. Stop beating yourself up about what you could have done, would have done, should have done. In the self-help groups, we stop shooting all over yourself. And it's so true. So we have this vulnerability and we have this self-compassion, which then, once you feel more and more comfortable in your own skin, more comfortable in your own soul, then you can reach out to others. And finally, it goes back to what I said earlier about my experience as a boy, the sense of community. You know, the universe was not broken up into 8 billion individual planets. We only have one. There are 8 billion brothers and sisters on this planet right now, all sharing this beautiful planet Earth. And yes, there are crises, natural and man-made. And yet, if we strive to have there's no way we can do this by ourselves. We are social beings. That we know psychologically, that we know sociologically. We are social beings. And as social beings, we have to interconnect with each other to recognize that in that interconnectedness, in that we are striving for independence, and we are wrong. We can never be independent. Not in the sense that I speak of, but we are interdependent. And as we strive to recognize that interdependence more and more and more, the irony of it all, what appears as a dichotomy but really is not, is that interdependence will make us feel one. One within self, within that so-called life or divinity within us, and the life and divinity within each and every one of us, or as it says, the interdependent web of all existence. We have choices. Because I don't, and I speak as a humanist in this sense, because I don't believe that God intervenes individually. God doesn't wake up one morning and said, yes, today I'm going to basically kill 47,000 human beings. Oh, but by the way, I'm going to save one child. Why? Because I can. I don't believe that. I just don't believe that. But I do believe that there is this infinite, inherent life force that permeates and regulates and balances and sustains the universe. We are part of that so-called, some would call it creation. I prefer to use the term demonstration or manifestation, but that if we strive to consciously do some of the things that I talked about in terms of vulnerability, in terms of self and other compassion, and in terms of community, I believe we can create a better world for ourselves and for each other. Now, the $100,000 question, and people have asked me this, do I believe that under those conditions that we can even do things like, quote, control natural disaster if we utilize that mindset? I don't know. I don't know. But you want to know what? I do know that when we are united as a human family, we stand. And I know that when we feel divided, not only do we feel divided, but things appear to us as very fragmented, divided, and even disastrous. So let's get out of a disaster mindset. Let's stop an existential outcry. Let's use our vulnerability, our compassion, and our community as Unitarian Universalists as we strive to unite ourselves within the body of our own spiritual home and reach out into the world to all who come in contact with us, so that we may truly begin to not just solve some of these existential issues that are confronting the planet at this time, but also to lead not a life that prepares us for the next life to come, so to speak, but helps us to enjoy and feel the joy of that unity, of that common union together as one people, one planet, in truth, and as it says in the scripture, in love. Thank you and bless you. My mother would be so proud. From all
The human touch can light the flame, which gives a brightness to the day. The Spirit uses mortal flame, life's vehicle for work and play. The
lovers kiss, the friends embrace, the clasp of hands to show we care, the light of welcome on the face, our treasured moments all can share. May all who come within our reach be kindled by our inner glow, not just in spirit's words we preach, in human touch, love's faith we show. Love's faith we show. And now we come to that portion of our service that we affectionately call the announcements. I had a minister one time, this was funny. He didn't know the lady's name that was going to come up and do the announcements, so he sang, "Here she comes, Miss Elanius." I thought that was good. Anyway, again, we welcome you here each and every Sunday at 11 a.m. for our devotional service. We are deeply grateful that you've chosen to join us this morning. And after the service, of course, we invite you for coffee, tea, sympathy, and I'm assuming at least cookies. And so we're very grateful for that. And hopefully you'll choose to join us and get to know us better as we get to know each other better. Does anyone have any announcements for us today that I am not aware of?
A lot of our regulars are still not here with us, but we do have Marie Howard, who we haven't seen in ages, is downstairs making us.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, fantastic. We are grateful. We are grateful. You know, the closest we come to a sacramental life is cookies and coffee. And people joke with me, they say, "You've got to be joking." I go, "No." I said, to us, that is important. It is how we share our soul, our spirit with each other. And I said, it does come along, come out as a bit humorous, I admit. But on the other hand, it is the one thing that binds us and holds us together, is when we do for lack of a better term, the first altar, the very first altar, in my opinion, was the dinner table. So take that and smoke it. No, don't smoke it. Smoking is bad. Smoking is bad. Okay. If you'll join me in a closing prayer before we extinguish the chalice. Infinite Spirit of all life, thou that is referred to as first cause, thou that is referred to as the great unknowable. We gathered together as brothers and sisters, united in mind, in body, and in spirit. And we know that as we strive to maintain our vulnerability to ourselves and each other, as we strive to establish self-compassion and compassion for others, and as we strive to establish community within our own spiritual family, within our own fellowship, but also as we extend that out into the world, we know that we feel love. We feel that piercing joy that only that infinite spirit of life can give us. And so as we leave this place, we do so in joy. We do so in great appreciation and great gratitude, knowing that as we go forth out into the world, we to make covenant with the spirit of life, to seek suffering and remediate it, to seek those that we can help and to help them. For it is in the giving that we receive, and we know this is the truth that will set us free. Amen. If you'll open up your service bulletin and repeat after me. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I'll be your candle on the water. My love for you will always burn. I know you're lost and drifting, but the clouds are lifting. Don't give up, you have somewhere to turn. I'll be your candle on the water, till every wave is warm and bright. My soul is there beside you. Let this candle guide you. Soon you'll see a golden stream of light. A cold and friendless tide has found you. Don't let this stormy darkness pull you down. I'll paint a ray of hope around you, circling in the air, lighted by a prayer. I'll be your candle on the water. This flame inside of me will grow. Keep holding on, you'll make it. Here's my hand